Give us your take right now on where your home state, my home state, frankly, is in this presidential election.
David, it's great being with you. And I think we're still a competitive state. I know, I sort of got nicknamed Debbie Downer in the last election as I was warning people that Donald Trump could win, and a lot of people didn't believe me. I think at the moment in this state, I don't believe the polls. I don't think Joe Biden's up 16 points. But I still think it's a competitive state. I think a lot of people, I think this is going to be a COVID election. The way that COVID has been handled and has impacted people's lives in every aspect of it, from the security of their jobs to a lot of people can't pay the rent or their mortgages. People, auto plants, auto workers have pre-existing conditions, are worried about being back in the plant. Parents can't find childcare in the school crisis right now. So that is going to be the biggest issue, but I think a lot of things can happen between now and November. And while I think Joe Biden is up by a couple of points, I don't take it for granted, and it really matters who turns out and votes.
Well, and if it is a COVID election, which seems very plausible, it strikes me that Michigan has been a battleground even over that issue, not just over the election, but over that issue, where you had President Trump at one point squaring off with your governor, Governor Whitmer, about the approach, and you had some Michiganders who went into the state legislature with guns because they were unhappy with the restrictions. How does that played out over time in Michigan? Are people still deeply divided about what we need to do to fight the virus?
They are. And I think you just put your finger on part of where this is. The Southeast Michigan, which tends to be more Democratic, is wearing masks, takes this seriously. A lot of people are very unhappy that we are still under certain orders. They don't want to wear the mask. I don't know how masks became such a political war, but they have. I'm out. I'm going to events, probably more than many, but I'm very careful. I do not go inside. I wear my mask, keep my distance, and wash my hands at all times. And if I am out and speak, I do not take my mask off. But people up the northern Michigan is pretty independent. A lot of people don't want to wear their masks, and there's a great deal of tension still in the state. And some people the state legislature trying to take away some of the governor's powers, and some people trying to put open Michigan on the ballot in November.
So Debbie, one question as we go into the election November 3rd is how we're going to vote. And right now that is front and center in Washington, in front of the House of Representatives, with respect to President Trump's challenges against the way that the United States Postal Service has been run. And this is what President Trump said earlier today about why he thought something had to be done about the post office. It has to do, I'll give you a hint, with Amazon. This is what he said.
One of the things the post office loses so much money on is delivering packages for Amazon and these others. Every time they deliver a package, they probably lose $3 or $4. That's not good. They have to raise those prices. Okay, not for the people to pay, but for Amazon and those companies to pay.
So I must say there are people who dispute those numbers the president just used. But Debbie, the post office has been a challenge for the country for some time. It has been losing money for a fair amount of time. And President Trump's been on this kick before. Does he sort of have a point?
First of all, we have to do something to help the post office in the long term. But I want to go to the short term. It's the oldest agency in this country. Benjamin Franklin was the first postmaster general. And a lot of people don't understand how many veterans rely on it for their medicine, seniors for their Social Security, bill paying. And a lot of people are now, because they're afraid to go out of their homes, are shopping online. And Amazon and other businesses are delivering their packages by mail. But the fact of the matter is, and people in the Trump administration themselves have said to the president that the post office as a customer, or Amazon as a customer of the post office, is stronger because they are doing business and it is not at a reduced rate. And the president has to realize that not everybody's a billionaire like he is, and that there are a lot of people that count on the post office as being an affordable means of mailing packages or bills. They can't afford a $10 or $20 or $30 fee from Federal Express. I shouldn't name individual companies, but by other couriers that do deliver packages. So we've got to make sure that they are financially solvent. We've got to figure it out. I've been focused on this for a long time, by the way, working with my area post offices long before it became a crisis here. The president seems to have become obsessed about the post office again, machines disappearing, boxes disappearing as we talk about the fall election and voting. And we do need to make sure that vote by mail is going to be safe in this country as well.
Congresswoman Dingell, as I understand it, you and your fellow congresspeople are being summoned back by the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, to vote on legislation, I think as early as this Saturday, to try to address this problem.
Saturday.
What can be done? Because as I recall, there was a provision in the HEROES Act that was passed, 3 months ago that addressed this. Why is it going to make a difference if there's a single bill just on the Postal Service? Is the Senate going to back that? Is the president going to sign that?
Well, I've talked to a number of Republicans in the House who are coming back and are going to be voting for this bill. And I think that a lot of senators, Republican or Democrat, are at home like I am and hearing from people who are very scared. Particularly concerning is the number of veterans calls that we're all getting from people who aren't getting their medicines, et cetera. I quite frankly think we need to be acting on the HEROES bill too and wish that they would do that. But we need to make sure we've seen the pictures of mailboxes being pulled off streets. We know, we've heard the reports, seen the pictures of machines being pulled out. And I've talked to a lot of postal workers who have been told they can't work overtime. So mail is just backing up in these post offices. We need to make sure that for the short term, the post office is operating and as the system is working and doing what it's supposed to do. And then we need to all get in the room and figure out how we keep the post office alive, because it is a very important function of our government and for our country to have that service for the American people.
And finally, Congresswoman Dingell, you mentioned the HEROES Act. I mentioned the HEROES Act. Let's talk about the overall stimulus, because it wasn't that long ago we thought it was a crisis that needed to be addressed, and now we're hardly even talking about it. It seems to be clear it's going to go over into September. What are the consequences of that? Are we going to get a stimulus bill, and if so, when?
You know, David, you may say that we're not talking about it. And the media I love the media, so I don't want to sound, the freedom of the press is very important. But if you're out like I am, I'm doing the farmers markets, I'm doing veterans events, a law enforcement event yesterday. That's all people are talking about. They're scared to death. They don't have jobs. One out of 4 people in Michigan doesn't have a job. They don't know how they're making their mortgage payments or the rent payments. We're trying to come up with programs for that. We have a real food shortage. I mean, people really don't understand that people in this country are hungry. Talk to the restaurant owners. They're desperate. I mean, if you are not on national TV, but home at just that grassroots level, that's all anybody's talking about. They want us to do something. State and local governments are looking at how are we going to reopen schools? How are we going to educate our children? They need help and they need support. So I'm hearing about it every single day, and people are outraged, and quite frankly, they're just mad at all of us for not getting our acts together and getting something done between all of us.
Which leads us exactly to the question I have. I mean, actually, there's a census survey I'm sure you've seen that indicates the level of anxiety about home, about job, about food is really remarkably high right now. What's wrong with our political process that if the people really are as concerned as you say they are, our representatives in Washington aren't fixing it?
So we've got to. So it's one of the reasons why it's important people vote in November, because you got to have leadership that's going to pull people together. I am somebody who has always reached across the aisle and been willing to work with people. And none of us, we're Americans first. We're not Republicans or Democrats. We have a dysfunctional Senate. I'm going to blame, we have passed something. The president should be taking leadership and saying, we have to do this for the American people. This is what we will do. And a lot of our members are frustrated and even, we got to do something. And American people need to say, as they elect their officials, we want you to work together. We're sick of this partisan bickering. We want to get things done and vote for people that are going to get things done.